An economic storm is fast approaching, and it's almost at your doorstep. Prominent figures like Elon Musk are acknowledging the presence of this destructive wind and warning us. So, should we be worried about this situation? Worry not. We will address this issue with you, and you will understand how to handle this impending matter. So, please be patient. First of all, according to Elon Musk's view, this upcoming situation resembles the infamous subprime mortgage crisis of 2007.
Well, I think it's more like it does seem like we're headed into a recession here in 2023. The magnitude of that recession is debatable, but I think it's at least a light to moderate recession. Potentially, it's on the order of 2009. So I think it's wise to kind of like prepare for the worst, hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
So, what happened during that period that made the situation so critical? To better understand the upcoming situation, from 2001 onwards, interest rates continually fell, which enabled millions of customers to take out low-interest housing loans. These loans were attractive to consumers. More people began to contemplate the idea of buying a new home, which in turn raised housing prices. However, when interest rates started to rise in 2005, circumstances drastically changed and had a significant impact on the affordability of new homes. Prices soared rapidly, and well-qualified debtors could not meet these astronomical housing costs, which some considered to be an excessive and unacceptable path that further plunged them into debt. Housing orders drastically decreased as a result of many subprime borrowers finding themselves in a significant debt pit. The exit door was narrowing. Primarily, payments became difficult for those using adjustable-rate mortgage arm. Secondly, many people couldn't sell their homes and profit during a period when housing demand was falling. Consequently, their way out of this situation was almost exhausted, as many of them had to meet their losses and face the severity of the economic crisis. An aggravating factor was that banks boldly halted their policies of lending to subprime customers in order to reduce costs and demand. However, the banks were also affected by this situation because they had to cover some losses. Ultimately, these loans were part of the bank's assets. Furthermore, a situation arose where banks would struggle to track loans, causing a stagnation of credit facilities that affected businesses and creditworthy customers. It also had an impact on the general economy due to companies having to cut back on their expenditures and investments. In conclusion, numerous layoffs occurred, and this situation slowed down product orders due to consumers being unemployed.
So Tesla is reducing the salaried workforce by roughly 10% over the next probably 3 months or so. We expect to grow our hourly workforce, and so it requires a reduction in salaried workforce. And we're about 2/3 hourly and 1/3 salary. So I guess technically a 10% reduction in the salaried workforce is only roughly a 3–3.5% reduction in total headcount.
Particularly, automotive giants like Chrysler and General Motors had to declare bankruptcy and resort to bailout programs that involved accepting partial ownership by the government. During this time, consumer purchasing power remained low due to a significant shake in their confidence. People were more cautious in their spending due to possible emergencies they might face in the future. All these factors laid the groundwork for the economic slump in December 2007. The situation worsened with the poverty rate jumping from 12.5% to 15% in 2010. To address this economic calamity, the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act was adopted as a law by the federal government. This act involved injecting funds into the budget to provide job protection and job creation opportunities, and also extended unemployment insurance and supported Social Security programs such as food stamps. Nevertheless, this act did not fully rectify the situation. The poverty rate among young adults and children rose to 22%, and the United States suffered a significant loss of wealth. The loss came along with a 57% decrease in stock prices, which equated to a loss of value of about $16 trillion. Astonishing, isn't it? There's a saying, the poor get poorer, and the rich get richer. This refers to a situation where the rich continue to increase their earnings despite an economic crisis, while the middle class and the poor suffer. What does this situation tell us? If you are poor or average, you are the ones who will suffer the most during a period of stagnation, and therefore, you need to be prepared for such a disaster and start saving. No one wants to be caught unprepared for emergencies. Therefore, adopt a thrifty lifestyle today. Another interesting point is that the economic stagnation did not just affect the United States. Other countries were significantly impacted as well. For example, Latvia was expecting a 25% decline in its gross domestic product. Also, international investors who had invested in companies in the United States were similarly affected, and this gave them a clear idea of what to expect. From one perspective, it is necessary for us to be prepared for the upcoming tough times and find ways to enhance our financial capacity to avoid suffering from the situation. So how is this achieved? You can start a side job. For example, you can write scripts on Upwork or put items that you do not need up for sale. At the same time, learn to set aside at least 15% of your salary into a savings account and build financial discipline. All these steps will shield you from the potential worst-case scenario and will give you the strength to stand tall if an economic slump arises.
This foundation, saving $1,000 for a starter emergency fund. This is just a small buffer between you and life.
Any money you have that's not retirement, anything you can sell that is not retirement, you're going to liquidate it. If it's not retirement, you got some stock over here that Grandpa left you. You got a gold bar under your bed. I don't know what it is, but you got any money that's above $1,000. Maybe you got $10,000 in a savings account.
Secondly, Elon Musk points out that there is a more than 60% probability of the economy going into a recession, and you need to be prepared for this potential hazardous situation. In a podcast, Elon Musk humorously states that the only remedy for the recession is hope. However, hope has never been a strategy. So, when he says, "Let's hope for the best," what does he actually mean? In deciphering this phrase, Elon Musk refers to the Federal Reserve Fed as the only beacon of light that could rescue the U.S. economy from a potential disaster. Essentially, he hopes for the Fed to rejuvenate the economy and lower the interest rates. However, he does not rule out the more likely worst-case scenario that carries the exact opposite of this hopeful situation. The situation becomes ironic when the scenario turns to do the exact opposite of what we were hoping for. The Fed has raised interest rates by 0.75 points in its last 4 meetings. And by the 5th meeting, we can expect another hike in the interest rates. To summarize, in my opinion, I believe that the last thing to hope for is hope, because looking at the trend, it appears that the Fed is not shying away from raising the interest rates. They are disregarding the repercussions of their actions while they try to tighten monetary policies. Based on this evaluation, my prediction is that there is a 30% chance of hope that everything will be okay, and a 70% probability of a recession. What does this imply? We can anticipate a lot of layoffs in the future, and you should not fall into the comfort of relying on your current job. Also, you should adopt the principle of not putting all your eggs in one basket, and perhaps start to think about a plan B that you can resort to in case you get laid off. Speaking of plan B, you should start to explore how you can make money online with your skills. For example, many LinkedIn companies are looking for tech-savvy employees who can work remotely. If you have skills like coding, it might be worth giving yourself a try. Elon Musk points out margin debt as the third concern that you need to be cautious about.
And he said from peak to trough, I think in less than 12 months, Broadcom went down 97%. So, like, even if you had a small margin loan there, you got crushed. It subsequently recovered, and I think to much higher levels. But if there's like mass panic in the stock market, then you got to really be careful about margin debt.
Musk argues that this situation could lead to widespread panic, and we can evaluate this perspective from various angles. At first glance, a margin call arises when an investor's balance drops below the minimum amount demanded by the broker. The investor often responds to this situation with panic because they are focused on their investment and do not want to lose it. A margin call requires you to provide more funds to meet the minimum value set by the broker. On an individual level, you may sometimes experience losses when market trends change. However, on a macroeconomic level, rising margin debt is usually a harbinger of a recession. For example, during the 2008 Great Recession, margin debts saw an increase of over 60%. Generally, we cannot ignore the fact that margin debt is an indicator of economic collapse. Therefore, Elon Musk advises you to avoid margin debt because it can be harmful for both individual investors and the overall economy. Elon Musk offers significant perspective on this matter. Also, Musk mentions that a recession will not last forever. The period of hardship will eventually end, and the economy will enter a process of recovery and rebound. He emphasizes that recessions are cyclical, just as recessions have come and gone in the past. He states that this anticipated recession will also come and go. At one point, the economy will revert to chaos where everything falls apart, because the Fed might be deliberately doing this and may intend to reset the economy.
Well, I think a recession is inevitable at some point. As to whether there is a recession in the near term, I think that is more likely than not. It certainly isn't. It's not a certainty, but it appears more likely than not.
Musk suggests that the economic downturn will typically last 12 to 18 months, after which the economy will rebalance. Drawing on his own experiences, he indicates that many companies will see a decline in cash flow during this period, but will recover afterwards. What can we infer from this? According to the timeline Musk indicates, the optimal time for investing or even starting your own business is likely to be the end of 2024 or mid-2025. It might seem like a long time, but trust me, it will be worth it in the end. The thing you need to do right now is to put your plans on hold and save every penny you get. Lastly, Musk shared somewhat controversial opinions on Twitter. Considering that Twitter is generally open to all kinds of sharing, Musk takes advantage of this liberty by expressing that he is pleased about the formation of the economic downturn. He targeted some big companies, stating that it was about time they experienced a bit of bankruptcy because they had been benefiting for many years. He also criticized stay-at-home measures during the COVID-19 period for encouraging laziness and suggested that a recession would be an awakening that would help people realize that not everything in life comes for free. However, technically, he could be right, considering how the economy rebounded after the relaxation of COVID-19 restrictions. This situation might arise when people become aware of the challenges of staying at home. Lastly, in preparing for a recession, Musk made significant layoffs at Tesla, describing it as a move against his will. As employers, having to lay off your best employees due to an economic downturn and protect your company from adverse impacts is a stressful situation. Elon Musk indicates that Tesla will be making more layoffs in the coming quarter. Do you agree with Elon Musk? Share your farts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to click the like and subscribe button for more up-to-date and informative content. Remember to hit the notification bell for valuable content that you shouldn't miss. Thank you for watching.